Yeah. Yeah, but we travel, and we're on the road, and of course, we just keep our phones plugged in. While one of us is driving, the other person's either surfing or, we got satellite on the, in the car, and we listen to Sirius XM, but, we tend to use the cell phone maps, Google Maps or Apple Maps, for directions rather than, Toyotas, because I just don't we've had a couple of times where Toyotas, it got totally confused where we were going, but we plugged that same address into like Google Maps or Apple Maps, and it knew right where we needed to go.
Charlie, I've done the same thing with like Nissan. I find on my phone it's more reliable than using my car nav system because I think they update those things a lot more often is probably the reason.
Yeah.
And Don, I just keep my phone plugged in whenever I'm, whenever I'm driving for a while.
That's why you shouldn't buy a Chevy. GM has stopped support for Apple Car Talk or Apple, whatever it is. CarPlay, and the Android one also. So they're going to do their own.
Alan in the United States.
Yeah.
Alan, I've got a third-party CarPlay unit because my car was
I do too.
1 year before they started putting them in Nissan. So I just use a third, I think I've told you guys that before. I use a third-party one, and it's wireless and everything. So, it's not that hard to find something if your car doesn't use it.
Yeah, but if you pay for one that's built in, they're going to use their own. It's what they're trying to use.
Yeah, I'm wondering when they started putting Apple CarPlay in, because ours is a 2017 Highlander. We haven't had too many issues with it, but as I said, we've had better results with using our iPhones for maps, etc., and directions.
By the way, the other one, besides, like Apple or Google Maps, the other one, if you're on the road, to consider is Waze, W-A-Z-E.
W-A-Z-E. I'll make a note of that one.
And Waze is also good about kind of the social aspect of it. People will let people know where there's like police sitting shooting radar and stuff.
Oh yeah.
So that stuff will pop up on there if you're on the road.
Well, there's probably an Apple app for that.
Yeah. Well, there's an app for everything, probably.
Right. Yeah.
Oh yeah. They usually I can't remember if it's Apple or the Google Maps will alert you when there's a speed trap up ahead. And it could be a speed trap, or sometimes it's just, the cop has pulled somebody over, and they alert you to that. But we make trips to Colorado and Florida every year, in Pennsylvania, and we find it's superior to the stuff that we get from Toyota.
Yeah, I agree with you, Charlie.
Okay, guys, I think we will start.
I had a question, comment about CarPlay. Wonder what it would be like if if someone has a car today with CarPlay, and the car gets to be 10 years old, 12 years old, or whatever. They said average age of a car on the road today, I think, is 14 years or something like that. Is the CarPlay gonna work anymore after 10 or more years?
I'm guessing as long as it's getting updated somehow, I don't know.
I'm thinking car makers may stop updating the computer systems in the cars after a few years, and then they will become obsolete.
But Apple's going to be updating their system on CarPlay. They've signed an agreement to update CarPlay, so Apple will come in there and make sure that it still works. It may not be exactly the same.
Oh, so CarPlay, car makers have to agree with Apple to keep the CarPlay software up to date enough to work.
Well, yeah, but I don't know what it's gonna be 10 years from now, who knows?
Well, only
on-
the agreement says that it lasts that long. If only if the agreement says the obligation lasts that long, would it mean anything?
Yeah, you don't know. OnStar, drop support, we had an Acura, an RL that, had OnStar on it, and the OnStar wasn't supported. And they announced, they sent us a note, said that OnStar wasn't, functioning anymore because, OnStar had done updates. And, Acura wasn't gonna update, the units in the cars. They
And how
just-
old was the car?
Well, it was a 2000, God, what was it? 2005, 2005 RL.
Well, they're dropping support for 3G, so maybe that's why they dropped it.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure. I mean, they won't
I'm
support
sure
stuff
we do.
forever. I mean, look what Apple does anyway with, I've got an old iMac upstairs, one of the big ones with the built-in DVD. And they stopped updating that thing, years ago, so.
Yeah, but a car has a longer life on the road than a computer does on our desktop.
Oh, yeah, oh, yeah.
Let me point something out though. When we're talking 10 years down the road, that's an eternity for technology. I mean, think about where we were 10 years ago compared to now. So
But
who
also
knows
think
in
about how
10
many of the
years?
cars made 10 years ago are still driving on the roads.
Yeah, I remember when we set up the internet for my son's grade school at Our Lady of Lourdes, and I got it all wired up. We used Cat6 wiring, and it was right around 2000, 2001 is when we put it in, and we had a couple of Wi-Fi ports from Apple that we hung on the wall. But it was real dicey, and it just, I mean, just think back what Wi-Fi was like 23, 24 years ago. It was more of an art than a science. I mean, now you go to Best Buy and pick up a mesh network, and it never drops. I mean, it's a
Yeah.
huge improvement over what we used to have to put up with.
Yep. All
Okay,
right, Ron?
guys, we need to start. John Connor's not here tonight. He's our president. He's on vacation up in Wisconsin or something.
Johnson, yeah.
Steve's our first vice president. He's here. And Glenn is, of course, our second vice president. And Alan's our treasurer, and I do the secretary and website.
Do everything.
Yeah, a little bit of stuff. Let's see, upcoming, we supposed in August that Glenn will I guess, report on AI, artificial intelligence.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about some interesting AI apps and the online AI apps.
Okay, cool. And that's the only thing we have upcoming. Our membership rewards program will restart this month, and I'm writing down your names on the piece of paper now, and this will be in December that we have that drawing. Let's see, what else? Well, we have question and answers. Does anybody have any questions for the group or?
Yeah, my wife has a problem with her iPhone SE. It's the third generation. It's the one you'll get now if you go and buy one from the Apple store. There are times when it just shuts down in terms of and unable to receive phone calls. And the only cure that I found for it is I just tell her, turn it off and power it back on, and it works, and then she can receive calls. But there are times where it just goes, you call her and it goes straight to voicemail. In fact, it's happened once to mine too, and mine's up to date. So I don't know what's going on with it.
I mean, I see that, I think, happen with all phones every now and then, but is it happening like regularly with her phone?
Couple times a week.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah,
Um,
and they're all up to date.
Do you notice a difference in which calls get blocked and which calls come through?
No, it's just in general, people try to call us. They'll try and call her and then they'll call me and mine will work and I'm trying to call Joan and I'm like, well, she's right over there and it's not working. Uh, and I'll tell her, turn it off and turn it back on and tell the guy to try it again. And call will go through. So, but
Does she
now
have-
again, it's consumer cellular, so I don't know. And we've got ours set up while we're in the house here to use the Wi-Fi connection because we've got that we have that awful Faraday cage effect in this house uh, with the wire mesh behind all the plaster, and it just kills cell phone signals in this house.
does it happen anywhere besides home?
You know, I think it happens more at home than any place else, but I think we just had it happen today. Joan was out on the road and our friend, our 101-year-old World War II veteran that we've been helping her with her, giving her rides, et cetera, et cetera. She tried calling her and she said, it went straight to voicemail. And texts still work. You can still text them, but some reason, you know, I don't know, it's goofy, but it's one of those things. I guess I could open a ticket with Apple and say, see if you guys can fix it. And maybe in 2 years they'll come back with an answer, but
You know, here's my question. If texting is never an issue, but just sometimes calling, and I can't think of the phrase, what you call this, but kind of a reset on your cellular line, but there's a phrase for it. And I can't think of what in the world you call it. Maybe somebody can help me out here because I
maybe
can't think.
a refresh of it, a refresh of your connection.
It's not just a refresh, but it's actually kind of the cellular company can do like a reset, I think, or at least they used to. I haven't heard about this in quite a long time.
Okay.
Because it seems to me if you're getting text messages, if they're iMessages, that would be different than phone calls.
Right.
So I'm wondering if it wouldn't be worth talking to, your cell company.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, consumer cellular has been pretty easy to work with. I mean, they've been pretty nice about it. But a lot of times you have to decide, where do you think the problem lies? I'm sure, we've all experienced it when you have two vendors involved and they do this. Oh, it's the other guy's problem.
Yeah, that's really frustrating. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, they do that, and well, have you tried this? Yeah, well, we did that. And so, yeah, it's always a challenge when you work with.
Well, I'm just
different-
wondering if you could do two things. One, completely factory reset the phone
True,
and see if that works. I mean, I know that's a real pain to get everything back where you want it, but
right.
try that. And then, like I said, I would talk to the cellular company. And I wish I could remember, because again, this is not something I have.
I believe it's a hard reset.
Right.
Yeah, but something the cellular company actually does
Yeah.
with.
My wife had a problem with her phone, and she
Okay.
went to Verizon, and they did something like, I think they called it a hard reset. It was a series of moves other than just shutting the phone down and restarting it.
Mm-hmm.
I think that might be what you're talking about, and it solved her problems. So you might go either to Apple or to your phone company and see if they'll do something like that as a trial.
Okay, I'll give it a try.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Yeah.
I have a question. I upgraded to Sonoma 14.5 not too long ago. And I don't usually upgrade until we get to, 0.1 or 0.2 in each system. But then I usually just go ahead and upgrade. And boy, I had a bunch of problems. I wondered, number one, if anybody's had those kind of problems, if they're running 14.5, if they had any problems when they upgraded. And the latest thing that I haven't been able to figure out is I've got a small drive hooked up for Time Machine. That, and I really don't I don't turn my computer off. I just put my Mac to sleep as a rule. And so now when I come back and wake it up, I've got probably a dozen icons lined up vertically on the right side that says you didn't eject basically the Time Machine drive is what it is properly.
Okay, that's the second part of that. That is actually a common known thing. And I've heard at least half a dozen people have that same issue. It's just a quirk of Apple that if your machine goes to sleep while you're backing up, it's going to do that. So I don't think it's a problem at all. And like I said, I've heard numerous people talking about having that exact same issue, but I've never heard anybody saying that it was a problem with their data or anything. Did you experience any data loss doing that?
No, I don't believe so. I mean, it just occurred to me when last time I looked at it that it was the same drive. It was showing probably a dozen icons lined up on the right side, all saying the same thing, that it wasn't ejected properly, and I didn't eject it at all. It's interesting that you say that, because I physically put the thing to sleep. I don't let it go to sleep. I'll put it to sleep and then I'll walk away. So maybe I should just let it go to sleep on its own.
Well, I don't necessarily know if it'll change going to sleep. I just know that other people have reported the same exact thing you have. And I think that it's just a weird quirk of Apple and Time Machine and your device going to sleep. And I think it's I don't know that there's a fix for it or anything like that. I just think it's one of those weird, sometimes you just find weird Apple quirks.
Well, that's good. I guess that's good to know that there's other people
Yeah,
have the
because
same problem. But
like I said, I've heard at least half a dozen people ask the exact same question, and I've yet to hear a solution for it. And I heard somebody who's a pretty good at, they have a lot of expertise in Mac hardware stuff, and they kind of said the same thing, that it just is kind of one of those weird Apple quirks, but it shouldn't hurt anything.
Well, it was interesting that it only started with this latest upgrade that I did, and boy, it's almost like I don't want to upgrade anymore. I went through a bunch of problems with my printer driver and Quicken and Photoshop and all the things that I use. I mean, it just was a nightmare, really. I thought I lost all my Quicken. I called Quicken because I couldn't get my data up and they couldn't figure it out. I really thought I lost it. I said, I can't believe I lost it. I know it's backed up. I just can't find it. Anyway, I eventually found it through just luck. But I normally don't have any problems when I upgrade on these systems. Does anybody else have any problems with this one?
As I say, I haven't had any problems with it at all, and it was smooth. And I'm on the latest upgrade, and
What
never
kind of
had an
system do
issue.
you have?
It's 14.5 Sonoma.
No, what kind of hardware
Well,
do you have?
I've got a iMac Pro that's about 6 or 7 years old, but I mean it's a screaming machine. Well, it was a screaming machine, when it'd stay. But it's 6 or 7 years old now, but it's an Intel machine though, So one of the last ones probably.
I've
And
got one too. I've got one too, but I haven't had any problems with it. But I don't keep mine running all the time. I shut mine down. When I'm done with this meeting, I'll shut it down. And I check for updates every time I turn the damn thing on. So
what's the prevailing theory on that these days? I think it's gone all back and forth over the years as to whether to shut the machines down or keep them running.
The
Generally
latest stuff,
speaking, they say keep it running.
yeah, that's the latest I've heard, is keep it running. The only time you really need to restart your machine is if there's some issue, although I will try to periodically shut mine down just to let processes clean out, because I find some of the things get gummed up in there, this system a little bit, but before I do meetings, if I want to use my iPhone as my camera, I always have to reboot my computer. It won't just find it when I put it on there. So, but yeah, everything I've been hearing in recent years is, yeah, you have no need to shut it down, and it's actually worse for the machine shutting it down constantly.
Do you guys put them to sleep, or will you just let them? I mean, you normally put them to sleep?
I have a laptop, so when I'm done, I shut the lid. So yeah, it just
So
goes to
it's
sleep.
in sleep mode then.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I don't think that's any different than what I'm doing. Okay, all right, well,
Yeah.
that's good to know. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Well, hopefully these weird oddities will go away for you. But like I said, just know that weird thing with the drive is normal. So I wouldn't, be too worried about that.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions out there? Going, I guess, huh? Let's see. Then, Glenn, I think you're next. On
Okay.
cookies.
Yeah. Let me share my goodies here. And I will make sure to optimize everything.
How are you feeling?
That's weird. To do that, Ron, it wants me to restart my computer.
Then don't do it. Then just
We jinxed you.
Well, either way now, it wants me to enter my one. Give me 1 second here, guys. I don't know what's going on. All right. Can you guys see this?
Yeah.
yes.
We all good? Okay.
Yeah.
It just let me put in my as soon as I put in my my password for my computer, it was all good. It just, I don't know why it didn't like that. All right. So my goodies for July. As you can see, my mind's on the beach a little. Unfortunately, that's not. I'll be headed about the opposite direction and end up in Minneapolis. So. All right. So with big fanfare, I don't know, I guess a year or two ago, Apple came out with the Apple Pay Later option for your Apple Card when you use it. Well, that's now being discontinued already. So that did not last very long. And so basically on June 17th, Apple sent out a statement. They said, starting later this year, users across the globe will be able to access installment loans offered through credit card and debit card, as well as lenders when checking out with Apple Pay. The company said, with the introduction of this new global installment loan offering, we'll no longer offer Apple Pay Later in the US. People that currently have a loan through Apple Pay Later still have the same amount of time to pay it off, but no new loans will be accepted. And so the thought on this is that it's just for Apple to get out of being liable for the loans and letting other financial institutions deal with it. So that didn't last long. And like I said, I think Apple just wants to get rid of the risk involved for themselves with this. All right. So there is, speaking of Apple Pay, there is a new Apple Pay scam out there. And I thought I would just kind of show this to you all. And I'll read what this says. TikToker Hannah decided to do a charitable deed and help two young men raise money for their community college. Unfortunately, she was instead targeted while outside of a Target department store, pun intended, maybe, I don't know in the article, for a new kind of scam. In a now viral TikTok video, Hannah talks about how she was approached outside of a Target store by two young men who said they were selling chocolates to raise money for their Christian community college. Hannah decided to purchase $10 worth of candy to support the young men in their cause. When Hannah brought up Apple Pay on her iPhone to pay for the chocolates, one of the young men instead quickly tapped his phone on hers, initiating the transaction before she could. This resulted in an accidental transfer of $975 instead of the $10 she was expected to pay.
Wow.
Hannah may not have known about the overcharge until later, except she asked for a receipt for the transaction. And it was then that the young men began apologizing for accidentally overcharging her $975.
Ouch.
Hannah immediately contacted Apple Pay customer support, hoping to get it quickly reversed. Unfortunately, Apple Pay support agents told her they did not have sufficient evidence to prove that she paid the $975 by mistake. She also contacted Apple Card issuer Goldman Sachs and was informed that the dispute could take up to 3 months to resolve. You could be a victim of the scam without being directly approached by a scammer. Instead, bad actors can hang around booths or vendors at crowded events and slide into a tap to pay transaction before it can be initiated by the vendor. Sorry, I'm getting a pop-up here. Anytime you're paying via tap to pay using Apple Pay or similar tap to pay systems, like those offered by some banks and department stores, always double check the transaction amount before clicking your iPhone to bring up Apple Pay. Never bring up Apple Pay to be ready ahead of paying. Tap to pay systems like Apple Pay use near field communication chips, which have an effective connection distance of about 4 inches. Do not initiate payment until you're over the trusted payment terminal or device and can see the amount on the terminal or the other user's device. If you do fall victim to a scam, don't bother calling Apple, as they don't have any control over your account. Instead, immediately contact the bank that issued the credit or debit card. So the big thing that they're saying with this whole story, and by the way, I was merciful to you all and I did not play the woman on the TikTok video because you would have been highly annoyed by it. So I thought I would just read that to you instead. But bottom line is this: if you're going to use Apple Pay, whether it's on your watch or your phone, look at the system first to see what the amount is, and don't initiate your phone or your watch till you see it on there and you're right there. Because some people evidently are initiating it when they're a little farther away, and then if somebody wanted to do something, they could.
And don't buy chocolates from guys outside of a Target store.
All right. I thought that this was a very interesting little segment on the Mac Geek Gab podcast episode a little while back, and they're talking about connectivity problems during travel with like their MacBook and Wi-Fi capturing like Portal when you have to use it, like say you're in a hotel or maybe on a plane or things like that. And I thought this might be very useful for people traveling. So I thought I would share this little video with you that they talk about.
So
Can you guys
Larry
hear
said, I
this?
went out of town this past
Yes.
weekend and
Okay. Let me get it back.
stayed at a hotel that I had stayed at many times over the years. This time I took my 14-inch MacBook Pro M3 instead of my 10.9-inch iPad Pro. I also took 2 iPhones. The first thing I do when I get to the room is to connect my iPhones and iPad to the hotel Wi-Fi, usually with no problems. This time I had no problems with the iPhones, but lots of problems with the MacBook Pro. The procedure is to connect the phone or the MacBook Pro to the Wi-Fi, and the web page opens in the browser for me to accept the service. Everything went well with the iPhones, but not on the laptop. When I enabled Wi-Fi, I did not get a browser page asking for me to accept the service. Instead, I got nothing but a note on the Wi-Fi page saying that Wi-Fi was unsecured, and the MacBook Pro did indicate that the computer was connected to Wi-Fi. But when I tried to access a web page, I got a notice that I was not connected to the internet. I tried everything I could think of to no avail. I rebooted a couple times into safe mode, no change. I removed all the extensions from my browser, Firefox, with no change. Changed browsers to Safari and Chrome, still no internet. I'm at a loss as to what I need to change. I'm running Mac OS 14.4.1 with 16 gigs of memory, 512 gigabyte SSD, and I have connected to a local community Wi-Fi with no password with no problems. This is the first time I've taken this MacBook Pro on a trip and tried to use it in place of my iPad. Any suggestions to help would be very much appreciated. I have not contacted Apple support yet in the hopes that one of you fine podcasters we'll have the answer. Dave, I think you have the answer. I could be wrong.
Well, I don't know if I have the specific answer for Larry, but I know what I would do if I were in Larry's shoes, which is sort of my default. It's our default way of approaching your questions when they come in. If we know the specific answer, we'll answer it. But otherwise, it's here's what I would do next if I were there. So oftentimes this happens because as soon as your computer starts to connect to the internet, as soon as it realizes it has an IP address, it starts trying to load all of the things that it needs on the internet. And that includes, your mail, your whatever, right? Whatever apps are open, or whatever things are running in the background. It includes your browser too. Every web page these days is secured with we see HTTPS, we see the little lock in the URL bar, and when you visit one of these captive portal pages for the hotel, the way the hotel delivers that to you is it sees that you're trying to load another web page, and then it redirects that page. It says, no, I'm going to hijack this lookup for this page and show you my captive portal page instead. And in a sense, that's what we want to have happen. We don't like it when our browser stuff is hijacked, but in these scenarios, that's what needs to happen. And the nice part about this is this way you don't need to know what the magic URL is to load the hotel's captive portal page, because it's going to be, it might even just be at an IP address / whatever. Like, you don't know. So this hijacking auto redirects you to the hotel's page, and you don't need to know. It just says, oh, I'm going to take you there. Great. The problem is your browser, it doesn't like it when a secure page is hijacked, because it sees the security certificate doesn't match with where you have been brought, and it stops, and that's the end of that.
You get a nice blank page.
You sometimes, or you get the
page,
or you get the warning that it's unsecure or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And so the way to get around this is to ensure that you load a non-secure page, if in fact that's the problem. And this might not have been Larry's problem. We'll talk about other reasons that this might happen too. But if in fact this was Larry's problem, the way you get around it is you load a page that's not HTTPS. Of course, none of the places that we visit are HTTP anymore. Everybody's using HTTPS, and that's a good thing. So I always type neverssl.com into my browser toolbar, and as you might guess by the name of the website, it is never SSL. That means it's never HTTPS, it's never secure, it's always sent in the clear, and therefore your browser is okay redirecting to whatever the captive portal in the hotel, on the plane, all of those things. So that would be step one for me, is to visit neverssl.com. And it is always going to be http://neverssl.com. It's never HTTPS. And
never.
Apple tries to do this in the background too, right? They have, is it captive.apple.com? Do either of you know what okay.
I remember that. Yes.
Yeah. PJ put it in the Discord.
There it is.
So,
Yep. Yeah. So if you remember captive.apple.com, that also would work. Yeah, exactly. I think Never SSL predates it, or at least in my memory, it was the first thing baked in there. So that's what I type, and it's easy to remember because it's Never SSL. So that's one way.
All right. So I thought I would just share that with you. So if any of you are traveling, I don't know if you've had this happen before. I've had that happen to me before, where I'm essentially my computer and like a hotel landing page or whatever wanting to fight, and I can't get connectivity. And so as they explained, and I've got the YouTube link down here, so if you want to go back and listen to that again to better understand it, it's a way of kind of getting around that so that you're not stuck there. So again, you can use neverssl.com or captive.apple.com. And I've got both those at the bottom of the screen there. So just something to think about when you're traveling. I've run into this before, and I was listening to this, I don't know, a month or two ago, or whenever they had this on a couple months ago. And I'm like, okay, I'm glad I'm not the only one that's ever run into this problem before when I'm traveling. And so it was just handy little stuff to know if you get into that situation.
So Larry,
All right. I don't know how many of you know, speaking of travel, that iPhone Messages has a hidden flight tracker in it. Anybody know that by any chance?
Nope.
Okay. Well, it does. And I don't think most people know this. But within the Messages app, there is, like I said, a flight tracker that can give you real-time information about departures, arrivals, gate changes, baggage claim numbers, etc. And so here's how you use it. First, to use this, you'll need to have texted yourself the flight number via iMessage, not SMS. And so the message has to be in one of the following formats that you can see here. So like the airlines and the number, usually, from what I've read, that works best. But if you do like the airline abbreviation and flight number, that should work well as well. So you can try any of those. And you'll know it works because you'll get the text will be underlined with a link for it in that text. All right, so that's the first step. And to track the flight, tap the link and you'll see two options, either preview flight or copy flight code. So tap on preview flight to see the flight details. And if you want, you can copy the code for using later. So you can see there at the bottom, I just had SWA 4441. It's a Southwest Airlines flight. I just picked a flight out when I was doing these screenshots up. You click preview flight, and what you will get there is you'll get, well, first of all, if the flight is actually active, you'll see a real-time map tracking, will pop up there. Like I said, I literally randomly picked a flight number I saw. And so this just happened to be a flight from Pittsburgh to St. Louis there. And if there are multiple dots on the bottom of the screen, that means you can swipe over because there are different legs of the flight. And you can see the little dotted line there. It's showing you the second leg of that flight after it lands in St. Louis. And if the flight has already landed, it'll pop up the baggage claim on there, which right now it's just got a dash because the flight hasn't landed yet, hasn't been assigned. But you can see when it departed, you can see when it's arriving. And so it, and giving you status and everything on it. It's a great little flight tracker that is right there in the Messages app. And like I said, I don't think that most people know about this, but it's a handy little thing to have in the app.
Thanks.
All right. How to change the name of your iPhone, Apple Watch, and AirPods. So, this is something that really, it's not that hard, but something people may not know. So I thought I would share it.
Today, I'm going to show you how to rename your iPhone. The name of your Apple device shows up in a bunch of features like AirDrop, Find My, Personal Hotspot, AirPlay, and by default, the name of your phone is just, Griffin's iPhone or John's iPhone, but you can name it whatever you want. So in Settings, General, About, Name, you can give it a different name, like Tog. You can also rename your Apple Watch. If you open the Watch app, it's in General, About, Name. And you can type in whatever you want. Similarly, if you have AirPods connected, you can change the name of those as well. You tap on AirPods and tap Name. If a few different people in your household all have a pair of AirPods, you might want to differentiate yours with a sticker, and you can give them a name that reflects that, like Blue AirPods or White AirPods. That is how you can rename some of your Apple devices. I'm D. Griffin Jones with Cult of Mac.
No, if you want to do your AirPods, they have to be connected for them to show up. If you don't pull them out of the case and connect them, you're not going to see them there, so you can't do anything with that. And I know I always try to give my devices unique names, because otherwise, when you have enough devices within the household, it can kind of get a little confusing with that. And so it's a simple little thing once you understand how and where to do that. So I just thought I would share that with you guys.
Today, I'm going to show you
All right. So I don't know how many of you use an iPad, but I thought I would show you a little way to screen record on your iPad. We've talked here before. I know I've talked about it in my goodies about doing screen recording on a Mac, but not on an iPad. So the first thing that you want to do is you want to customize your controls, because it's a lot easier if you just put it up there and you can just swipe down from the right-hand corner, upper right-hand corner of your iPad. And now in Control Center, you've got the control to do that. So swipe down there into Control Center, tap Customize Your Controls, and you can then basically add things to that when you do this on your Control Center. By now, I think most people are familiar with Control Center because you've got it on your Mac, your iPad, your phones, whatever. And so you want to make sure you've got an option in there. Access within apps is turned on in your little controls there. So you want to add screen recording. So when you're in this setup, go down to more controls section, tap on screen recording, and you'll see a little thing for it. I believe it's a little red circle kind of looking thing, a circle within a circle, I think maybe it is. And once you've added that, then it'll appear in your Control Center. So once you've done this, now anytime you go into Control Center and you pull that down, you can just tap that icon to start recording, and it'll give you a 3-second countdown, a little timer before you start to record. And when you want to stop recording, you just go back up to Control Center and tap the screen on the icon. Also, you'll see up on the little status bar, there's a little red icon up on your status bar, and you can just click that to stop that as well. And then if you want to access your recording, it's automatically saved to your photo library in the Photos app. And so to find all your screen recordings, open Photos, tap Screen Recordings below Media Types, and you can access it there. So it's a handy little thing to be able to do on an iPad, and this is how you do it. So first thing in Control Center, you're going to go ahead and add your screen recording button. It's white, red with a white icon, sorry. And now you've got it there, so you can just pull down from the upper right. You've got it there. So now when you're ready to record, you just pull down, hit record. It'll give you a little countdown there. And now it's recording whatever you're doing on the screen. And so when you're done, you can click that again. You can pull down. There's also a little red thing up there on the top that it should let you do that as well. So that's how you record on a screen on the iPad.
Does that have to be a new, Glenn?
What's that?
Is that compatible pretty far back or not?
I think it's been around for a while, but I don't know how long it's been around. So I can't tell you exactly. But
Thanks.
I think it's been there for a while at least. All right, you can also change the look of icons in your Mac, and this is something you've been able to do for a long time. I've done it quite a bit, but if you'd like to have a little more customization over what stuff looks like, whether that be for fun or helps you differentiate what your folders and icons look like, just follow these steps here. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is you're going to click on the icon once to select it and hit the Command I key commands, or you can go up to File to get info. And once you do that, you're going to see this little screen there. And next, you're going to find an image or an icon that you want to replace that folder with. So let's say I want to replace, this just happened to be, my son had done some drawings when he was in first grade. He was making a little book about dogs, and it was just, your typical blue folder. And so let's say I wanted to change that, spice that up a little bit so I could look at that folder right away and I knew what it was. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find an image that I want to replace this icon with. And when I have that image, I'm literally just going to drag it onto the folder icon in the Get Info window. So up at the top there, you'll see the little icon, and it says you can see Matthew's dog breed book. And I'm just going to drag it over that, and you let go of it, and you will see that your icon's going to change appearance. And if you don't like the look of it, you can go back to the original just by pressing delete, and now you're back to the blue folder. So it looks like this. Okay, so here's my desktop. Are we not playing? Sorry. I click on the folder once. You can go up to File, Get Info, or you can go Command-I, either one brings up the window. And now I'm going to find, I've got a little image there I want to use. It's one of his drawings. I just drag it over. You'll see the little plus. I let go of it right on the folder, and boom. It has now changed what that folder looks like. It's that simple. And so if I close it, you now have that on the desktop. Looks like a picture, but it's really a folder that's sitting there. And like I said, if you're in the middle of doing this and you don't like what it looks like, you want a different image, just when you have the Get Info window open, just hit delete, and it'll delete that picture, and it'll just take it back to the blue folder that you started with. And by the way, this can be for fun just because I want things to look different, but it also sometimes I find helps really differentiate some of your folders. So I think that's kind of nice. All right, I've kind of put this off for a couple months here now, so it's gotten to be a little bit of old news. How many of you guys are familiar with the Delta game emulator? Anybody heard of this? So there are now, Apple has been allowing, it's been a change in the App Store. They've started to allow game emulators, and you can play classic games from like older systems. You can see I've listed here like Nintendo DS, Game Boy Advance, etc. And so there's a handful of emulators out there. The one that I have tried, it was really the first one on the scene, it was called Delta. And currently, I don't think it's changed yet. It only runs on iPhone, but eventually they're coming out with an iPad version. But like you can play small games. Like I've been sitting there playing this on my phone and playing the old Frogger game. And so it's kind of a cool little thing. And I'll just share how this works.
Game emulators are finally on the iPhone on the regular App Store. No need to jailbreak, no need to plug your phone into your computer through a hacked together process. You can emulate Nintendo DS, Game Boy Advance, Game Boy Color, NES, SNES, and N64 games on your iPhone. And best of all, it's mostly free and mostly legal. This is all made possible thanks to Delta, which is an easy-to-use, all-in-one emulator app for iPhone. You can download it for free on the App Store if you just click right there. In the European Union, however, there's an extra step you need to go through. Because of how Apple changed the App Store rules, in order to comply with the Digital Markets Act, you first need to install an alternative app marketplace. It's called AltStore Pal, the iPad-native version of the app. It's the iPhone app running in compatibility mode. The old, slightly more complicated method of installing Delta through the original AltStore is still available if you have a PC or a Mac running macOS Ventura. It's free, but it has some drawbacks, mainly that if you don't have a paid Apple developer account, the apps expire after only 7 days. So, once you've installed Delta, you're going to need to add some games. In order to play games, you need what's called a ROM file, which is a digital version of the old physical cartridge. Now, legally speaking, if you own a game, either if you bought it way back when in the 80s, or if you bought it used on eBay, you are free, legally, completely, to make digital copies for your own personal use. For all the most popular consoles, you can buy these game cartridge adapters, like this one for the Super Nintendo or the Game Boy. You just plug your cartridge in, and then on the other end there's a USB cord that you can use to plug into your computer, or just your iPhone directly. You might need a Lightning to USB adapter if you have an older iPhone, but you plug it in, you open the Files app, and then you go to the Browse tab, and it'll appear just like a USB drive. Now, a legal gray area assumes that if you already own a copy of a game, you can skip the step of buying the special hardware yourself and go to one of those online ROM websites and download it relatively guilt-free. A murkier gray area assumes that if the original creators or studio or company that developed the game in the first place no longer exists, or if the game is no longer available to buy anywhere, that you can download it online, guilt-free, knowing that you're not really taking money away from anyone. Now, where could you find such a website? They come and go as various legal entities threaten them with legal action and have them shut down, but as of April 2024, my favorite is consoleroms.com. It's very easily navigable, very easy to use. You search for what you're looking for. There's no minefield of ads that you need to click around. So, you've downloaded Delta, you've downloaded all your favorite games. Now it's time to add them to your library and start playing. You open Delta, you tap the plus icon in the upper right, and you tap Files. You navigate to the folder where you downloaded them, and you can just tap one, and then you can tap Select All in the bottom left corner to select everything and tap Open. It'll add them and it'll sort them automatically by console. You can swipe left and right to navigate your library. Just tap a game to launch it. You have these gorgeous on-screen controls that mimic the look and feel of the original controller with haptic feedback. And just like a physical controller, you can roll your thumb between two buttons at once to press both simultaneously. And you can turn it sideways for a bigger screen with semi-transparent buttons on either side. Tap the menu button to go back to your library. It'll automatically save the state of the game when you close it, or you can manually create a save state for better peace of mind. And when you launch a game, you can long press on it to look at your previously saved states that you want to resume. So RPGs like Pokemon, Earthbound, Paper Mario are easy enough with the on-screen controls, but games like Tetris or Super Mario Bros. Are quite a bit harder, and games like Mega Man and Super Mario 64 are downright clumsy. Luckily, connecting a physical controller is really easy. If you already have a PlayStation, Xbox, or Nintendo controller, you can pair it to your iPhone over Bluetooth. On your iPhone, go to Settings, Bluetooth, and then with your controller, there's probably a button or two that you need to hold down to enter pairing mode. Connect it, and then when you open Delta, the on-screen buttons have disappeared. That's your cue that it's taking input from the controller. You can even connect multiple controllers at the same time for multiplayer games like Mario Kart, Mario Party, or Super Smash Bros. Now, crowding everybody around an iPhone will do in a pinch if you're on the go, but it's not exactly ideal. But you can AirPlay your iPhone to an iPad, Mac, or Apple TV to see your games on a bigger screen. And you can even go one step further than that for true authenticity. If you buy an old TV with a CRT, you can also get an HDMI to RF modulator to plug it into the coaxial port on the back of your TV, see that gorgeous 8-bit artwork as it was meant to be seen on a fuzzy, slightly dodgy CRT television. There's another way you can customize Delta to your liking as well. If you want your Nintendo DS games to match the dark red Nintendo DSi you had growing up, or you want your Nintendo 64 games to match your green transparent controller, you can download skins online. Go to deltaskins.github.io, or you can click here for the link. You can easily browse by console, and if you see a skin you like, tap on it and tap download. Then you'll open the Files app, browse to where it downloaded, and tap on it to import it into Delta. From here, you'll tap on Settings in the top left, tap on the console, tap on the skin you want, and then scroll to select it. Delta is a versatile emulator that's incredibly easy to use. Links in the description where you can download it from the App Store or from AltStore Pal, and where I highly encourage you to donate to their Patreon that keeps the project running and available for everybody for free. Remember to like and subscribe. I'm D. Griffin Jones with Cult of Mac.
All right, so basically, like I said, Delta is an emulator. I've tried it out. It's a little tedious playing on a phone, in my opinion, but you can actually play these old school games and stuff, and it's kind of cool. It works pretty well.
Game
Actually,
emulators.
I have a comment.
Yes.
Delta seems to be missing support for the older Atari 2600 gaming system.
That is correct. They don't offer stuff for that. Okay, I wanted to share with you a product that I had come across, and it's the InCharge XL They have different lengths, but this one, I just put one of them, the XL 2 meter, 6.6 foot, 100 watts, 6-in-1 super long cable by Rolling Square. And this looked like a pretty cool product that I wanted to share with you guys.
Hey all, here at OS Reviews. You guys may recall that about a year ago we checked out the Rolling Square In Charge that they called the Swiss Army knife of USB cables because it contains all these tips into this one design. So it has a full-size Type A, can be converted to Lightning for iOS, USB Type-C to USB Type-C can also be used, micro USB. The company itself, Rolling Square, is also based in Switzerland, so that analogy to a Swiss Army knife really does apply. Well, there were a few small cons at the time, one of them being that the end caps for the USB tips were not fully protected. Now in this upgraded version called the In Charge X, they have pretty much solved that issue, and now it comes with this protective cap that closes everything together when it's not in use and prevents, again, any dust or grit from getting into the USB connectors. So aside from the upgrade by including an end cap as part of the design, the price at $30 a pop is still, say, a little bit high for a USB cable, but it is very well engineered and built. The other main upgrade this time around is the charging speed. So whereas the previous gen model only charged up to 20 watts, so fast enough for charging smartphones and tablets, this one here gets up to 100 watts. So you can even use this to charge a MacBook or a laptop. Power and wattage have been significantly upgraded, and you can now charge pretty much any device using it. Once again, the cable is constructed out of a aluminum alloy shell, which does feel pretty sturdy. We have just the In Charge logo, and the end cap is made out of rubber with the Rolling Square logo. So immediately once we pop it open, we can see it's held using these magnets. So it tightens up very securely. This can lock onto your keychain or backpack. And we do have the different tips, which you can then interchange between just by unhooking here. So if I pull on this a bit, you'll see that I can change between Lightning instead to USB Type-C. The other side right now is still a full-size Type A, but if I wanted to further change this to, let's say, another Type-C to Type-C, there you go. Now I have this particular option which supports up to 100 watts for power. And what's special here as well is this Lightning port, by the way, is not only Lightning, but it's also micro USB. So this is truly a very clever design because they've made micro USB basically in the center, but then the contacts on the outer side can still work with iOS devices. But as expected, everything here is fully functional. And as far as the cable is concerned, it's a braided texture, so it won't really break down over time and makes it feel a little bit more sturdy. I will also mention that just like before, they have made two variants. So this is not the only model that you have. They also have an X Max edition, which is the same product, but just has a longer cable length. If you find this to be too short, you don't need it to be just a keychain wallet sized, but you want to actually use it for charging onto a wall, for instance, or actually using to charge a laptop. You get the same versatility of the 6 connector tips, but obviously now we have a much longer cable length. And in terms of pricing, this cable is about $10 more expensive, but it is 1.5 meters or 5 feet in terms of the length, so it will be a lot more comfortable, like I said, if you want just a more versatile setup, but obviously it no longer works on a keychain, so you can consider kind of the pros and cons of the two sides there. Alright, so in this quick demo, we can see that the tiny In Charge X, we're using a Type-C power bank, and we are charging up this laptop, not to mention smartphones, which probably is a little more convenient because the cable is so short. You can actually put the power bank still into a backpack or a pocket if it's a smaller one, and it can still be charging your device. The cable doesn't really get in the way as much. Typical phones will charge up in around an hour or two. Same thing goes with most laptops and computers. So again, working as expected. Same thing goes with iPhones. One thing I will say though is the dual-sided tip here that also works for micro USB, because it is in the shape of Lightning at the outside at least, I do find it to be a little bit tight. It definitely works, but compared to a regular dedicated micro USB tip, sometimes you have to apply a little more pressure to actually put it in and pop it out. But again, if you're primarily using the Lightning as well as the Type-C and Type-A ports, it's going to fit a little bit more naturally, and overall I think it is, again, very clever in terms of design. So that's more or less it as far as our hands-on review of the new and improved version of the In Charge X Swiss Army knife style USB cables. You can check out more details if interested in links below. Thanks for watching here at OS Reviews.
So they have different model sizes. As I just put one up there, and you can see, you can get the little keychain one, you can get a longer one. I have not bought this, not tried it, but I've been tempted to because this seems like a pretty handy device. And if you go to Rolling Square, they make some impressive stuff. So, and you can see here that they've got some different lengths there that you can choose from. And if you choose the longer cables, they come in a little case as well that you keep those in. So like I said, it was something that caught my eye that was pretty impressive. And I've read good reviews about it. So thought I'd share that with you guys. All right. And there you have it. That is Glenn's goodies for July.
Thanks, Glenn.
Sure.
Yes.
Good. Quick question about that screen recording.
Yeah.
Can you record sound like if you were having a FaceTime conversation?
You will have to have a different piece of software to do that. And there are, unfortunately, off the top of my head, I'm blanking because I know that is a struggle to try to record both sound and video at the same time. There's a lot of screen recorders out there, software that will record just video, but not audio and video. Unfortunately, off the top of my head, I'm blanking because I haven't done it in a while. Does anybody have one that will do both? Okay. I know I've come across them before. So you'll have to do a little research there, but there is software out there that will do both. Just doing the system screen recording will not do it. It will just only record what's on the screen without video.
Okay, thanks.
About the cables,
Yeah.
do those transfer data or are they only for charging?
I believe it's just charging.
Okay, now we're going to move on to Steve. I'm not sure exactly how you're going to present things, but it's going to be on folders and an update on. I can't see the thing. Oh, home app. Okay.
Let me get set up here. Okay. Says I'm sharing. Can you see it?
Yes.
Okay. This presentation is in two parts. First, I'll describe folders and how they are good for organizing your iPhone apps. And I'll demonstrate how to bundle apps into a folder, move them around, move them out again, and even move the folder if you need to. And the second part is I'll show you some of the folders on my own iPhone, and in particular, the one that holds all the apps that have to do with my household automation. And from that, I'll segue into my HomeKit app and how I use it to control the smart plugs and the smart wall switches that I have around my house. Let's see if I can switch to my phone. Can you see my phone?
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, during our May joint meeting with CapMac, we saw a presentation on widgets. Widgets are great, but they do have some limitations. Only certain apps are compatible with widgets. And even the smallest widget takes up as much space on your screen as 4 apps. So if you're having to be careful about real estate, then folders might serve your needs better. Folders can hold any app, regardless of the developer, and a folder takes up no more space than the icon of one app. So on my phone, I have 28 folders that hold anywhere from 3 to 15 apps each. The apps in each folder all have something in common, such as all my credit card apps are in one folder, apps for restaurants, grocery stores, health-related apps, online shopping, and so on. This screen on my phone right here, these are 4 apps that I normally keep in one folder, but I've removed them for this demonstration. They all have space and astronomy in common. There's one for sunrise and sunset times, right there. There's an app that tracks the International Space Station. We go out on our back deck every once in a while when we know the space station is going to fly overhead. Let's see, there's an astronomy app called Skyview. That's the third one. You hold that up to the sky and you look through the phone, and whatever star you're looking at, or planet, or galaxy, or constellation, whatever, shows up on your phone screen. And then finally, there's an app called Moon. I cannot say enough about that app. It is a great little app. Even the free version has a wealth of information in it. So if you're even remotely interested in astronomy, download that app called Moon. So if I press and hold on any one of those apps, and I'm going to press and hold on ISS Spotter, and 3 options pop up. Well, you saw what it was. Let me try it again. There. Edit home screen, share app, and remove app. And I will select edit home screen, and they all start to quiver. That means you're in edit mode. And all I do is drag one of the icons on top of one of the other ones, and bingo, it creates a folder. Now, to remove the app, all you have to do is the same thing in reverse. Now, your phone thinks up a name for the folder. For some reason, it thinks education was a good name. I think it's a lousy name, but I can rename it by tapping on the name, and I'm going to call it Astro. And when I tap any place outside the folder, it shrinks down to normal size. Come on, there it goes. And you notice I'm still in edit mode. And I can drag Skyview into the folder and Moon into the folder. And then I tap anywhere outside it, and it's done. I have a folder with 4 apps inside. Also, if I want to relocate the folder, I move it just like I would an app. I press and hold, edit home screen, and I'm going to drag it to another page on my phone. This is where I had it originally. And my phone is back to normal.
And notice you have them alphabetized.
Yeah, that's, I guess I'm kind of OCD like that.
Looks good to me.
So that's how you make folders. My guess is probably most of you know how to do this already, but if you don't, it is really a handy way to organize. That way you just don't have this blast of apps everywhere. You can group them according to what they have in common. And I found it very handy. Now I'm going to segue into one particular folder that I call House Apps. And it's down here at the bottom. In January, let's see. No, let me open that up first. There we go. And in that folder, I keep the apps for my garage door. That's what my queue is. Our thermostat, that's Sensi, and our Wi-Fi router, which is Orbi, a mesh network. But one particular app is made by Apple and is included in all iPhones, and that app is called Home. It controls the software framework for certain home automation devices. In January, I gave a presentation on Belkin smart plugs and smart wall switches. I have 14 Belkin devices in our house. And I use them to control interior and exterior lights, ceiling fans, floor fans, and so on. Each device has its own QR code, which your phone uses to add it to the home app. And I like to peel off that QR code and stick it to its corresponding device in case I ever need to reload the device. That has happened on rare occasions. So back to my phone screen. I'll walk you through a few of the features on the home app. Let me open it up. First, in the upper right corner is a plus sign. You tap on that to add a device to the home app. The app will activate your phone's camera to scan the device's QR code. Your phone will coordinate the connection between your router and the device, which usually takes about a minute. You can also name a device. Once the device is in the home app, you can name it, such as table lamp or floor fan or ceiling fan. And you can organize the devices according to where they are located, such as a bedroom or a living room or a patio. And on this row right here, you can group devices into scenes. For example, I have a scene called outdoor lights on and no, there's just one, outdoor lights on. And my porch light, my deck light, my driveway light, and my basement entry light are all part of the same scene. And if I press and hold on it, I can edit the scene, and there are the buttons for all four of those. And currently, since it is after sunset, they are all on. And let me exit out of that. Now at the bottom, down here, that is where you create automations. I'll tap on that. Use the plus sign in the upper right there, to create an automation, and you can set a device or a scene or even a room to turn on and off at specified times. And an option that I really like lets you schedule devices according to sunrise and sunset. I have our outdoor lights set to turn on at 30 minutes after sunset, and they turn off at 30 minutes before sunrise. With some other timers that I used, I had to constantly adjust the time that they turned the lights on and off. You know, as your days get longer and the nights get shorter and the other way around, you know, every few weeks I had to reschedule it because the lights were coming on while it was still daylight out. Well, with the sunset and the sunrise features on this, it does it for you. And of course, every device and scene can be controlled manually without affecting their schedules. And during a recent storm, the afternoon sky was as dark as night, but sunset wasn't for another hour. But with one tap, I was able to turn on all the exterior lights. Since the devices all work with your home Wi-Fi, you can also control them even if you're not at home. And any place that your phone can get on the internet, you can control the devices. Now on my desktop, the Mac also has its own home app, and it does everything the iPhone app does. If you're sitting there working on your computer and the room gets too warm for you, you just open up that home app and you can turn on the ceiling fan or the floor fan or whatever. A few times since I've installed these smart devices, we've had power outages. At first, I thought I had to go around to every device and repeat the setup process, and that's what I was doing for a long time. But one time, we were away from home when the power went out. And when I got home a few hours later and the power was back on, I discovered that all the devices had reconnected to the Wi-Fi by themselves. And they retained their schedules. Now it takes a while because the router has to restart first. But after several minutes, everything returned to normal on its own. So there you go. That is my 2 cents worth on the subject of automation. Any questions or comments?
That's really great.
Steve, I've got two little questions for you.
Yeah.
One, and this may be a little out of the scope of this, but is it possible to take, for lack of a better way of saying it, dumb home items and make them smart by plugging something into them to then be able to use with the home app?
Give me an example of a dumb.
Dumb switch.
Basically anything that came before smart devices.
Like a floor fan?
Could be anything, yeah.
Yeah, that's what those smart plugs are. They plug into your wall outlet and you plug the floor fan or dumb item into the smart plug. And the smart plug turns the device on and off. Of course, you have to turn the fan on.
Right. What about though, say if that fan had different speed settings, would allow you to do anything more than just turn it on and off?
On mine, it can't.
Okay.
There are some smart devices that they have built-in rheostats so that you can increase or decrease the speed.
Right.
Belkin makes a wall switch for ceiling fans and ceiling lights that are dimmable.
Okay.
So you have some control. I don't have one of those myself, so I can't speak from experience, but I know they are for sale.
Well,
My question to Glenn's is, if you have a fan that is on a wall switch, you can't plug anything in to make that work, so you have to go in and rewire that switch somehow, right?
You take the old switch out and replace it with a smart switch.
Aha. And a smart electrician. Excellent. That works well.
I had
They're not hard.
wall switches that I wanted installed. I am not an electrician. Electricity makes me nervous, so I hired an electrician and he installed them all. It took him 30 minutes and it was worth it.
yeah, Steve, I'm trying to come up with a solution. I don't want to get into a big conversation here, but basically down
Can't
here,
convince your wife.
what's that?
You can't convince your wife.
Well, no, my theater room down here, I have all my devices in the next room that control my projector here, but my receiver, my Apple TV, all my devices are in the other room and I can control those. But I have an RF remote. Well, the company, I don't know if you guys have heard of the Harmony remote before. The company has dropped support for that. It's getting old. And that was like the gold standard of RF remotes. Work great. Like you know, on your things, I set up all these systems to turn all these things on with one button. I'm wondering if there's any way to go put like smart plugs on all these things and be able to run it off of that. I have a feeling no, because I'm going to need to do some work inside devices.
Yeah, that sounds a lot more complicated. We have
Yeah.
a floor fan, a pedestal fan, they call it, in our bedroom. It makes white noise.
Yeah.
It has a remote and it's got an electronic controls on the base. And I've tried using a smart switch and it will not start up the fan. You have to use the fan's own controls or remote.
Okay.
But if it's a dumb fan that all you do is plug it in and turn it on, then the smart wall switch or the smart plug will work.
Yeah. One other quick follow-up. If there was one of the Belkin smart plugs that you would recommend, what, and I know you did this before, I was trying to remember, what would your recommendation be?
It's been a few months since I looked at the Belkin website and I included the URL. Drowning it. Two smart plugs. I think they discontinued the original one.
Okay.
But now, one that they have actually connect to each other so that you've got an extended range. If you've a wall switch out in your garage, for example, and it's too far away from your Wi-Fi, but you also have a wall switch or a smart plug between there and your Wi-Fi, it sort of forms a chain. I think that's how it works, but it's got a special name for it. Look on the website; it'll tell you what it is.
Okay, thanks.
Hey, Steve.
Sir.
This is Dave Clark. I've done this at my house too, and I also use a company called Lutron. They make smart switches that you can be compatible with things.
You taking us on a tour of your house? What's going on?
I also trying to get light on it. Apple makes smart Wi-Fi mini. Can you guys see that?
Oh, those look just like the Belkin.
Those are just like Belkin. They come, I think it was 4 in this box, and you can plug any dumb device into it.
There you go.
But you can't dim them; they're just on or off.
Yeah.
So what it also is that I can tell my Apple system, my phone, to turn on the TV. It turns on
over here.
and also on
You can see
70%. It turns on the lights 70% or 100%.
Yeah.
I just want to interject that. I enjoy that type of work.
Yeah.
John, because my house went out.
You're cutting out.
I'm sorry. I had to use my phone because my the house was unpowered when I started this meeting.
Okay. But when I gave the presentation on the Belkin devices, John Connor also had a brand that he recommended. And I looked at what he had and I looked at my Belkins. They're both made in China. They looked a lot alike. They just had different brand names. So,
Probably made in the same factory.
Probably so.
Yeah, here's the device itself. With a plug.
That's it.
Button on the side.
I'll bet you anything that Belkin is behind that.
Yeah. Well, the button on the side is also allows you can reach down and manually do it if you can't get to your phone or anything. You can turn things on and off with the button.
Right, that's a manual override.
Yeah. I like my attached to my phone. My house does a lot of things like this. I need to do more.
Same here. And I've taught my wife how to use them, and she's always turning lights on. If the house is dark, she likes to have lights on before she walks in the house.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
Yep.
Thanks, Steve.
Thanks.
So thank you.
Very enlightening. Okay, let's see. We go to the Freeform app. And like 2 or 3 months ago, John Connor had seen this on MacMost about doing a photo collage in Freeform. And at the time, it was only in the pay-per-view thing. And so I downloaded it after it came out to all of us. And then, of course, we had our meetings with Cap Mac and so on. So anyway, I thought it might still be useful for us to do. It's a video on how to use Freeform to do photo collages. So anyway, let's see how you think about it. Can you see that?
Yeah, we got it.
Okay.
Most.
Hi, this is Gary with MacMost.com. Let me show you how to create a photo collage using the Freeform app. MacMost is brought to you thanks to a great group of more than 2,000 supporters. Go to MacMost.com/Patreon. There you could read more about it, join us, and get exclusive content and course discounts. In the past, I've showed you how to create photo collages in a variety of different apps like Photos, Pages, and Keynote. But you could also now create them in the Freeform app. So in Freeform, I'm going to create a new board here. And Freeform doesn't have a page size or edges or anything. It's just one big blank canvas that stretches off infinitely in any direction. So we can create something here without having to set anything up in advance. To add a photo, you can certainly use Insert and then Photos or Videos. But you can also just drag and drop. For instance, I've got the Photos app open here, and I can drag and drop from the Photos app into Freeform, and then the photo will just import in. You could also do the same with files. I've got some files here in the Finder, and I can drag and drop one of those in as well. And you can see the result's the same. So wherever you have your photos, just bring them in to Freeform by dragging and dropping. Now once they are in, you can easily move them around by clicking and dragging them. You could also easily resize them by selecting one, and then you've got these 4 dots on each corner. You can grab a dot and you can enlarge or shrink the photo. You can also rotate photos by moving your pointer over one of the blue dots, holding the Command key down, and then dragging, and then you can rotate it like that. You hold the Shift key down, it'll stick to 45-degree increments. Now there are a few default things about the photos that you can change. You can see them if you go to Format, and here you can see Shadow, and there's a slight drop shadow, and you can see I can turn it off there if I don't want that effect. You also have got round corners. If you turn that off, then you can see the corners are now squared off. And you can do that for multiple photos at the same time. So I can select both of these and say that I want no shadow and I want to turn off rounded corners. So you can see you don't have to do it per photo. Matter of fact, you could select a photo like this, go to Format, and then you could save it as the insert style. So the next photo you insert will have no shadow and these square corners. I can also crop your photos. So if I don't have it selected yet, I can click once to select, and right away I should see some buttons down here. If I don't see them, I can just click again and they should appear. Now this first button here allows you to resize to the original size, which will be really large, or replace the photo. So if you've set a specific position for a photo and you don't want to have to bring a new one in and set it to the same position, you can just replace the existing photo inside this frame. The second button here is the cropping button, and you have a variety of controls that should be familiar to you if you've ever done this in other apps like Pages. So the slider here allows you to zoom in, and once you've zoomed in, you can actually drag around to get the image where you want inside of the frame. You can also switch to cropping, and cropping then allows you to grab the edges like this. So you could actually go in another ratio like that, and you could still drag around and zoom in like that. So after you manipulate those and get everything like you want, you can click Done. Now you can also mask with another type of shape besides a rectangle or rounded rectangle. With the image selected, if you go to Format and then Image, you could go to Mask with Shape, and you could choose from a variety of shapes here. So for instance, if I wanted to put this image inside of an oval, I can. And now you can see it's in a circle there. I have the same cropping tools here. They appear automatically. So I could move the image around. I could grab the shape here and change it like that. I can switch to this mode and then just move this photo around and resize it or scale it as I want to get the photo to fit in there. And then click Done, and you can see now I've got the photo in a different kind of frame. But you can go even further than that. If you start with the shape, so I'm going to click the Shapes button here and then choose something completely different. For instance, I'll choose this shape right here. And it's just going to give me this regular shape that I could use in a variety of different ways. But one of the things I can do is I can use this as a frame for an image. So I'm going to drag an image into this, and it's going to insert it inside of that shape. It's going to mask it with that shape. So let's zoom in a little bit here and click Done, and you can see I've placed it in there. So you can really use any shape that you want that's in here, Or you could draw your own shape with the pen tool there to any frame that you like. And then once you've got that, you could drag an image into it. And position it as you want. And then mask a photo inside of any shape. Now, one thing that it appears that you can't do is you can't create a border around an image. So let's drag this image in here. And if I just use the standard frame like that, there's really nothing I could do here to add a border. It doesn't allow it. There's no border setting. In addition, if you used one of these shapes, so let's go with the basic shape here and one of these rounded rectangles, and I drag that same image into this, you would think you'd be able to add a border here, but in fact, you still can't. There's no border option. However, since I created one shape like this, I can certainly create another one. So I've created the second shape here. I'm going to place it on top of this one. And if I click on this once, I've got the fill and border for the shape that's on top. So I'll click here and I'm going to set the fill to no fill. And I'm going to set the border here to a regular border. And I'm going to make it like 4 points black. So now I've got a border here. It's actually two shapes, one on top of the other. And then once I've got that done, in order to move them both together very easily, I can select them both by dragging over both. And I go to arrange and group them. So now it's one shape here. Now let's say I want to add some captions. So you can add any text you want anywhere you want. So I'm going to drag this image in here and then I'm going to make it a little bit larger here so we can work with it a bit better. And let's say I want to add a caption to that. I can click here to add a text box and I can move this text box wherever I want. So I'm going to put it here at the bottom, stretch it to along the bottom like that, and I can enter in my text. Now I could just use a regular caption like that, but I could also drag it on top of the image. So I could put it like there. Let's now go and change the color to white. Let's change this to bold. And let's make it a little bit bigger as well. So I could have it there or I can position it anywhere I want on the photo. And if I want the two to move together, I can certainly select them both and group them as before. And once you've grouped things, they work really well for moving and they work really well if you want to rotate the group. But the text doesn't really work great for scaling. So you can see Freeform doesn't really handle that very well. So a quick and easy way to create a collage is to go to an album that you've created and select the photos that you want. I'm going to select these 5. And you could drag them all in at once. And then after they've all imported, you've got all these photos here. And now you can position them. So notice how things snap really nicely and make it very easy to align. So I can snap them all like that and position them. If I need to move things up and down different levels, I could select it and then go to arrange and I can bring forward, bring to front, send backwards, or bring to back. So let's bring this to the front like that. I love to do a little border around this, so I'm going to go ahead and create a shape here and it should snap to it. But notice that the rounded edges aren't quite the same. I'm going to zoom in using the trackpad or you can use the control down here. And now I can use the green dot here to match the radius of the curve. And then I'm going to select this and I'm going to change the fill to no fill. And then I'm going to change the border to 4 pixels here and make it white. And then it kind of creates a little bit of separation there. I want to add a caption here, so I'm going to add some text. I'm going to put it right here at the bottom of the center photo. And I'm going to put some text there, select it, make it bold, make the color white like that, and maybe make it a little bit bigger. And then I'm going to position this like that. And then I'm going to select all 3 of these, the border, the photo behind it, and the text. And I'm going to group it. And then I'm going to use the rotation here, holding the command key down and rotating this slightly like that. Now I've got a good collage here that I want to use. It's nice to look at in Freeform, but it'd be great if I could actually send it to somebody in a message, an email, or maybe post it online. So a really simple way to do that is to select everything by either dragging over it or just using Command A to select it all, and then Command C to copy. So now that I've copied, I can go to another app and just paste it in. So for instance, here I am in the Messages app, and if I paste, you can see it pastes the collage there. I didn't have to save a file or anything. Similarly, in the Mail app, if I just paste into the body here, you could see it pastes. Note that when you're attaching images in Mail, you always want to check image size here and make sure it's set to what you want. This is a pretty small image already, so I only have small, or probably a little smaller than normal or actual size. But a lot of times people choose something too small and then the resolution isn't that good. So choose the right thing. What about saving this as a file? Well, you can easily create a PDF by going to File, Export as PDF, and then save it here. I'm just going to put it on the desktop, and you can see here it is. And if I double click on it, it opens up in Preview, and I've got a pretty nice PDF of this image here, and it's pretty good resolution. What about as an image? There is no Export as an image option, but you can go to Print, and under Print, where it says PDF, click on that and then Open in Preview. This creates a PDF, opens it in Preview without saving it, so you don't have an extra file laying around. Once you're in Preview, you can go to File and then Export. And then one of the export options that you've got is JPEG. So now you can save this as a JPEG. You can even choose the resolution here. So I can create, say, a smaller JPEG file by setting this something lower. And I'm going to save it here to the desktop. So now you can see here's that JPEG. If I double click on it to open it in Preview, you can see it here. You can see the resolution is pretty low because I set it that way. If I kept it at 300, it would be a lot finer. Also note that in Preview here, if you want to crop it a little better, because Freeform does create a bit of a margin around the edges, you can click on the markup tools here, then click on the selection tool, then select the area that you want to crop to. Once you've got that set, then all you need to do is do Command K, which is Tools, Crop, and it will crop it. Now when you go to export as a JPEG image and you save it, you can see this new one here is cropped much tighter. So those are the basics. Keep in mind that you can add all sorts of other things. Like for instance, you can go and add other shapes, or you could add arrows and point to things. With text, you can not only add text, but you can use Control, Command, Space, or the FN and E keys, and then add different emoji characters if you like, and then just size those up pretty large, and now you can have little stickers that you can place on your collage as well. Hope you found this useful. Thanks for watching.
Impressive.
Cool.
Well, it gives you an idea that you can save your pictures and do things with them.
I'm sure we're sure more than pictures.
Oh, sure. You know, and the whole idea of Freeform, I don't know if you guys remember, was to actually collaborate with other people. So, you know, you could make that a collaborative project, or you could put it together. And I think it's a fairly simple to work with program, and you probably could create some nice stuff in there without having to, you know, go in and use something like Photoshop or some real complex program.
Yeah.
Okay, and I think we're down to browser games.
Okay, well, I'm going to share it with you guys. And so when we say browser games, you know, let me be a little more specific about what I'm talking about here. I have found, and I've kind of created a collection of, for the lack of better way of saying it, of games. And I like to think of them as sort of little brain games, little casual browser-based brain games. And so I don't know if any of you use tab groups in your browser or not, but like there's a series of these that I just like to sit down. Maybe we're just watching television at night, and I like to sit down. It's just like I said, little brain games, just to keep my brain sharp, or just to kind of relax. Nothing that is going to take me a real long time to do or anything. And so what I did is I created a tab group in Safari, and that's where I keep these. So I just go to that tab group, and I have these. And so I thought I would just share with you all what some of these games are. And that way, if you guys have any interest, you can check them out. So let me share with you all here. Can you see that?
Yes, Wordle.
Okay, so you all have heard of Wordle. Well, this is called Worldle. WRLDLE. And so each day when I come here, they give you the outline of a country, and you've got 6 guesses to try to guess what the country is. I've not looked at any of these today, so it's the first time I pull up, but you will notice up here on my tab group, you know, I've got tab groups, so that's what I'm looking at. It's just my online tab group games. And so, you know, I just go out of that from my main tab group, and I just have all these tabs open. By the way, anybody want to take a guess at what this country is? I happen to know what it is already, so if anybody wants to guess, you can guess.
I have
Zimbabwe?
no idea.
Zimbabwe was very close, starts with a Z.
Zaire.
Zambia.
And you hit Zambia and you guess, and boom, I got it right. Okay. So, and you've got 6 guesses, and then this is made by a company called, well, there's, before I get into that, you can also look at stats on here. So I can look at my game stats. I want to see how I'm doing. And, you know, and then there's little settings you can change the theme and stuff like that on there. But so each day they have a different country. They also make some other games here. Excuse me, apologize. Where you can do, like, you know, different little geography stuff. So I kind of like that. I don't know if you can see the up here in my address bar. It's worldle.teutef.fr. And that is the website. What I'm going to do is, when I'm done here tonight, I'm going to put together a list of these, and Ron, I'll send it to you. And then if you want to, that way you can post this.
Oh, cool.
These games, if anybody wants to try them. Okay, the second one I have is something called Where Taken. And so this is, I just do, there's Where Taken World and Where Taken US. And so you have to look at the picture, and you've got 6 guesses to try to figure out what state this was taken in. And
Maine.
so
Maine.
you're just trying to look at the clues. All right, you want to, let's try it. Ron, we'll go with your guess, Maine. We'll see if it's, and we'll click on Maine, and I'll guess. And boom, we got it right on the first one.
Cool.
Now, if you don't get it right, it will say, it'll tell you how many miles away it is, and it'll give you a direction arrow so you can kind of know, well, which way do I want to go from there? And you've got to try to narrow it down. But, you know, you can use the clues like, yeah, that looked like kind of a rocky shore in Maine. I agree. I would have guessed somewhere in New England first. And had that not been there, I might have looked at something along the Pacific Northwest or something. Sometimes I'll look at details, you know, I'll try to kind of zoom in here, and, you know, you never know, like if it's a building or a sign on a building, you know, just trying to identify it. So, another little kind of photo geography thing. And by the way, if you'll notice up here, it's the same company that did Where Taken and Worldle. So a couple geography things.
Okay.
The next one I have here, it's called When Taken. And this gets a little more complex, and probably not going to go through this, but you have to look at a picture here, and you've got to figure out, you have a slider down here, and you got to figure out what year it was taken between 1860 and the present. And then there's a world map up here that you can manipulate, and you've got to put a little pin wherever you think it is, or, you know, you can, you know, I can drag this, and I could zoom in if I wanted to go to find like a city, and I can click on there. I can get as detailed as I want. And you get, there's you have 5 different pictures, and you get more points. Each is worth 200 points. And the closer you are and the closer the year is, the more points that you will get for it. And so I'll go through that, and it's just kind of fun to try to decipher when and where that is.
What would you guess for this one?
Well, as I'm looking at it, to me, I would be guessing somewhere probably Asia, maybe.
Yeah, India, maybe.
I was thinking Singapore.
Well, that's what I was thinking, is more Southeast Asia, based on the flag, probably. Then
I
the
love
other
the elephant over there.
yeah. And then the other thing I try to do is I try to look at the dress or things they might have on them. Like, this seems fairly recent to me, the quality of the picture and the dress of the people. Those kind of things are sort of clues. And then I try to go through all 5 of them, and you can see your score is out of 1,000 points and see how you do on that. Okay, the fourth game, sorry, is no longer a picture or geography one. This is called Word Grid. And so if you like word games, this is something for you. So what you've got to do is you have to complete the grid, and you want to try to be as unique as you can with your words. So you can see up here, this first column says starts with GR. So when I go to this one, I've got to find a 5-letter word that starts with GR. Now, if I put great, that's going to be pretty common, I'm guessing. And so you can see here this 2.57%. It's not really rare. So like I want to try to come up with something that's going to be much lower percentage than that. And so they have, let's see here. You can see these colors right here. And so like the green is common. The one I just did, rare, it's still pretty common. If you can get into like the pink or the blue, that means you've done a pretty good job, of coming up with words that not a lot of people did for this game. And if you get I've never gotten the unicorn, it means you are the only person in the entire world to come up with that word. So, so what you're trying to do is you're trying to fill the whole grid. And I've got to do, so I got a GR with 5 letters. Here it's got to be starting with GR, a 6-letter, here a 7-letter. Then you've got to do this column. They contain an S and a P in it. This one, an R and an O. And so you've got to complete the grid. And when you get done, it'll tell you at the bottom, your grid was rarer than whatever percentage. I think my best was like maybe 78%. So, so if you like words and you're trying to think of words to do, and this one you can see down here, it's made by Clever Goat. They make a number of these little games. The next one here is categories. And so they give you 16 words. This is also a Clever Goat game. And you've got to categorize these into 4 categories. So you've got to figure out somehow these 4 go together. And I'm just picking 4 of them. And then when I'm ready, I would hit submit, and it would tell me how many of them are in the right thing. Now, obviously, those don't all go in the right category. So you've got to figure out, like, my guess is here, I'm going to go, I got to undo these, but I'm not going to do the whole thing right now. But if I go queen, king, twin, and where was the other one? I saw single. I'm going to hit submit. Boom, I got one of the categories was mattress sizes. And you notice down there, your little lives remaining, you get 4 lives after you mess up. So you can, you're not dead until you can get these. So categories is the name of the game there. There's another one here. It's a Trivia Pursuit one. And you get 5 questions they take you through on this. Just different categories. Okay, another one we have here is Word Apply. And what this wants you to do is you see NIFE. Well, I need to have that in a word, and I need to type my word. Well, the goal here is to get the longest words I can. You're going to try to get 5 words, and they are going to try to be the longest words you can. So the longer the word, the higher, the more letters you use, the higher your score is. So you're trying to come up with words that use these letters. But I don't want to just do like knife, because that would be pretty bad, a 5-letter word. I mean, you're really trying to get words that are like double-digit words. So that was another little word game there. Hold on, I got to move my stuff out of the way here. Okay, the next one I have is, it's called Numbobulate. And if you're a math person, these last 2 are math number games. And so what you got to do here is you have to click for a target, and then using each of these numbers only once. And you don't have to use all 4, but some combination of, you can only use them once. You have to figure out what sequence will get me to 17. And by the way, if you do it wrong, you can just say try again. So let's, if I go 6 times 4 plus 2, that equals 26. Oh, I mean, and then if I, I could subtract 9, boom, and I got it right. And that's how that works. And it gets tougher as you go along. Usually the first one in the sequence each day is fairly easy, and then they get a little tougher where you got to think about it. And by the way, all of these games all reset each day. So once you've done them for the day, you're done. You can come back. That's why I keep this tab group here. And I just have them all on my tab. I go to that each day when I'm just sitting. Like I said, they're little brain games just to keep me sharp or just relaxing. The last one here is called a Ken puzzle. And my son did these in school, and my wife, as a math teacher, knows all about these. And so you can do your daily challenge. You can create a custom one. So let's say we keep it simple, and it's a 3x3. So since it's 3x3, I'm using, well, this one only has, I don't understand this. Hold on, let me go back because this one does not make sense to me. All right, let's try this. There we go. I can only use the numbers 1, 2, 3, or 4. And in each area that is boxed in, I can only, you got to come up with the number there, and you can only use, you're only going to use numbers like in each row or each column, you can only use them once. So like across this row along the top, I'm going to use 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now they can be in any order. Same with going down a column. So each column is going to have 1 through 4, 1 through 4, 1 through 4, 1 through 4. Same with rows, but within each, not only do you have to have that, but within each thing, like these 3 have to get me to 24. Does that make sense to everybody how I'm describing that?
Not to me.
Oh,
So, so anyway, so what I've got here is I've got some geography things. I've got some photo stuff. I've got some word games. I have some trivia games. I've got some numbers games. And again, these are all things that I can sit and play all of these games, within 5 or 10 minutes easily. And they're just little games, like I said, that keep me mentally sharp. I find them just sort of relaxing, and my wife likes to do them. Even my son likes to do some of these. And then we're all like trying to see like the word grid, who can do the best, or some of these we sort of have fun competing against each other. So just like I said, they're relaxing, they're brain games, and they're stuff that I would recommend if you enjoy that kind of thing. And so what I will do, Ron, is I will, once we get off here tonight, I will make a list of these and their addresses, and I will send you a PDF of those that you can.
Cool. I'll get it on the website at least a day or two.
Okay. And by the way, there are a ton of other games and stuff like that that are real, just simple things. But, so if it's something you want to do, just find what works for you. I mean, you can do anything. But I do recommend if you have a collection of those, do like I did, create a tab group, and that way you just have them all together. I always, when I'm done with that tab group, I just flip back to my normal empty tabs. And then when I'm ready to play each day, I just go to that, flip down to that tab group, and it takes me to my games. And now they're never in my way because I just go away from it when I'm done.
Sounds good. Oh, we're at 9 o'clock. Okay, cool.
hey,
Thanks,
good time,
Ben.
guys.
Yeah.
And
Thanks, everybody.
Steve and everybody for coming tonight.
And Lyman, don't let that cat eat you.
Never, never.
Never.
Have a very large comb. Thank you, everybody. It's good seeing you all.
All right, we'll see you next month,
Have a
guys.
good
Take
weekend,
care.
all.
Next
Bye.
next
Bye.
month, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.